Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm Dr. Abhishek Kumar, and in this one, we are going to discuss a reading list that is simple yet effective for Zoology Optional. Zoology has lately emerged as a very popular choice among the bioscience and applied bioscience students. So, not only the students who have done zoology as one of the subjects in graduation who are taking this subject, but also students from botany background, microbiology, biochemistry, biotechnology, etc., are also taking zoology in really good numbers. And apart from that, of course, the medical and dental doctors are also taking this as a favored optional. The reasons are very obvious. One, the syllabus is very clearly laid out. Second, there is a very clear relation between your effort, your performance, and your score. This is a very important criterion when it comes to selecting the optional for the main examination. Apart from that, the syllabus is interesting. Ecology, economic zoology, animal behavior, these are the parts which are directly helpful in general studies, especially in the prelim examination. So that makes it a popular subject. But then that begs the question, what should be your reading list for zoology optional? Since there is a lot of advice floating around on the internet, here is my updated recommendation for the year 2024, which will hold good for the civil service examination and the Indian Forest Service examination of 2025 and 2026. If UPSC comes up with any major change in the pattern of asking question, of course, I'll be coming up with an updated version of the same. Now, let us see what are we going to discuss in this particular video. So here we go. First and foremost, I have titled this presentation, this video, as the easy reading list for zoology optional. What exactly do I mean by easy? Why am I calling it easy? And does it really mean that it is easy but not effective? Of course, that is not going to be the case. But I'm going to explain what do I mean by easy. Then I'm going to touch upon what should be your starting point for zoology preparation, especially if you are not taking coaching. When you are not from this subject, yet you are wanting to do zoology with self-study, then what book should be your book zero? That is your starting point. And then in the next section, I'm going to deal with different sections of zoology syllabus and what would be one best source for that particular part. And I'm also going to give you some alternatives to that, because if you have not read this book, but you have read some other book, you should know that your other book can also be a very good alternative. Then we are going to see what should be your approach to deal with these books. When you are reading these books, what should be your tactic to quickly complete what you are reading these books for. So basically, you have to know that you are reading these books for building a clear concept, taking information which is relevant for the UPSC main examination, and making your own notes and making your own answers. Once you have done that, effectively you have finished the zoology optional preparation, and then you can get into the revision mode. So now let us start with the level 0 book. Well, before that, let me tell you what do I mean by the easy list, and then we can go for the level 0 book. So when I say that this list is an easy list, so the first thing is that the books that I'm going to mention here, they basically cover at least 85% of the prescribed syllabus of zoology. Actually, it can cover a little more than that, but I'm keeping it at 85%. That minimum 85% these books are going to cover, and they are not going to require a lot of effort from you to give you coverage of these 85%. Hence, I have picked up these books. What about the remaining 15%? For that, you may have to look into one or other book, or perhaps some authentic internet resources. But at least 85%, if you are getting at one place, then it should be your top priority book. The second thing is these books are easy to grasp and they are also easily available. So let's talk about easy availability, because most of the books that I am going to recommend are published by Indian publishing houses. They are easily available at your local bookshop, or if they are not available, you can always order from one or the other e-commerce portals like Amazon or Flipkart. The third thing is they are easy to grasp, easy to comprehend because they are written by Indian authors and they have basically kept the explanation in the same tone in which the subjects are taught in the Indian universities. Therefore, you would not find any friction in the way you have learned the subject during graduation or normally how people learn the subject during their graduation and the way the book is presented. So it will be an easy to understand kind of book. Next thing is that these books are also very good for making notes. Again, because they are written in the pattern of Indian university examination, therefore making notes will be an easier thing. The same cannot be said about the books written by foreign authors because in their books the style of writing is more narrative rather than a clear, organized account of facts and concepts. But that is the hallmark of Indian books, and therefore Indian books are easy to make notes from. And last but not the least, these books are a tad bit more affordable compared to the books written by international authors. Having said that, I'm not taking away from the international books on geology because they are fantastically written. They give you very nice concept. But sometimes if we have not been used to of going through such books during our graduation years, we will find them daunting. Plus, making notes from them is going to be a little harder because you have to convert the entire tone of presentation. The book is written in a story-like style, and you have to give your notes a shape that is in tune with the UPSC civil service examination or the forest service examination. Therefore, these considerations make me call the list of books that I am going to suggest as the easy list, but easy does not mean that they are not effective. They are highly effective provided you know how to do it well. Now let us start with level 0 book. Level 0 book is inescapable, highly important, essential I would say for all those students who have not studied geology as one subject in their graduation. Let's say you are a botany graduate, you are an MBBS graduate, you are BDS graduate, you have done BTech or BSc in biotechnology. That means that you have not studied geology as one of the subjects in graduation. And then for you, level 0 book is where you should be starting, especially if you are doing self-study of geology, because this book will give you the platform on which you will start understanding the other specific topics mentioned in the syllabus much better. And without understanding, you would not go very far in this subject. Therefore, building a conceptual core is very, very essential. Here is the book, and that book is written for the NEET examination, but a very nicely written book. It is called Textbook of Zoology for NEET. It is brought out by Wiley Publication. It is not necessary that you get the most recent edition of the book. If you get the most recent edition, without shelling out much money, then go for the most recent edition. But if you are not getting the most recent edition, it is totally all right, because anyway this book is to build your foundation and not to give you the optional coverage, because this book cannot give you the optional level coverage of UPSC. But without this book, if you directly jump on the optional level coverage, that would not do your optional preparation any favor, because then you will be going into the deeper topics without knowing the very basics. So this book will prepare you to start your real preparation. If you have prepared for the medical entrance examination, you already have this book or any book of similar standard, but make sure that that book is not for biology in general. That book is a specifically for geology. That book will serve your purpose. Make sure that you are going through that book at least once. If you do not have this book, but if you have studied Modern Geology by Dr. Ramesh Gupta, that is equally a good book, then you do not need to buy this book. So for almost all the books, I am going to suggest you at least one or two alternatives, so that if you have read any of the alternative book, you do not need to buy this book. Okay. So either this book or Modern Zoology by Dr. Ramesh Gupta. Which one is better? They both are equally good. And as such, you should not fuss too much about the basic book. The purpose is to gain the basic concept and get a sense of the basic facts of the subject, and then move to the specialized coverage of the syllabus. Now let us start, and we are starting with the books that you are going to need for paper 1. But before that, let us recall what are the areas in paper 1. So paper 1 first and foremost has invertebrate zoology, then it has got vertebrate zoology, comparative anatomy. In section B, so these were the three topics of section A. Then in section B, you have ecology, economic zoology, ethology, that is animal behavior, biostatistics, and bioinstrumentation. 5 areas in section B and 3 areas in section A. In total, 8 topics, 8 sections in paper 1, and these 8 sections demand at least 8 different books for preparation. So here we are with my recommendation for invertebrate zoology. This is one of the most popular books for invertebrate zoology in India. That is the book written by Dr. R.L. Kotpal. For the civil service main examination purpose, you do not need to buy the Kotpal series of books in which one book is dedicated to each phylum. That is definitely not required. This book, single volume book, will be alone almost sufficient. The only drawback of this book is that the classification is not as updated as expected from you in the UPSC main examination. For that, you can perhaps look into Barnes' Invertebrate Zoology book. That is a very well written book, and from there you can take classification. So far as the account of structure, the account of life cycle are concerned, they are very nicely dealt in this book, but you will need to make notes because even though it is a single volume book, the account given for structure, the life cycle is quite longish. That much you cannot fit within the framework of an answer. Therefore, it is highly important that you make notes. When you make notes, it will be much easier to simplify the diagrams also, because the diagrams need to be simplified if you intend to reproduce them in the examination. Without simplification, you cannot draw the diagram in the examination. Textbook diagrams are invariably much more complex than what is expected in the examination. Therefore, you should be making notes, you should be simplifying the diagram, and at the same time from the book, you should be taking the key facts, key concepts, and you should be including only them in your notes. My suggestion is ideally in the first reading, you should not attempt making notes. Otherwise, you will end up writing a lot. In the second reading, you should start making notes. But in the first reading itself, start underlining the key concepts, key facts. If you have highlighter, of course you will have. So highlight the key concepts. And first reading should be all about reading. Second reading should be about making your own notes. Once you have made notes on all the prescribed topics of the syllabus, you can then move to revision of invertebrate zoology at least one cycle. Apart from that, what I would also like to say that this book has one small limitation in addition to having outdated classification. The diagrams are not as clear as they should be. Yet I am recommending this book mainly because this book has got good or almost concise coverage of the topics which are mentioned in the syllabus. So diagrams will be requiring to be simplified by your own effort, but then there should be no problem. It almost covers 100% of the invertebrate zoology syllabus, so coverage of the syllabus should not be a problem. Now, what are the alternative books? It is possible that you have not studied this book in your graduation, but you have studied Dhami's book. That is equally a good book. In that case, you do not need this book. Or if you have studied Jordan and Verma book for invertebrate zoology, again you do not need this book. And in the eastern parts of the country, especially West Bengal, Assam and Odisha, the Ganguly Sinha and Adhikari book is quite popular. So if that is the book that you have studied, that is also a very, very good book. One of these books, Dhami, Kotpal, Jordan and Verma, or Sinha and Adhikari book. Any one of these books will serve the purpose for invertebrate zoology. I have no special affinity for any one of the books. All the books suffer from the same limitation, having slightly outdated classification, having a little more complex diagram than what is required to be done. But since they give you the description of the things in a good framework, which is easy to follow, easy to make notes from, I am recommending this book. Okay. Now we move to vertebrate zoology. Again, the book by R.L. Kotpal, single volume. There is Kotpal series on vertebrates also, where for every class of vertebrata, he has written a book, but that will be an overkill. You don't really need. This single volume book will be sufficing. Apart from that, here also you will need to make notes. You will need to draw your own diagram. And here also the supplementing substitutes, they remain the same, like the Jordan Verma book, if you have studied that for vertebrate zoology, or Ganguly Sinha and Adhikari book, or if you have studied Dhami's book, they all will serve the same purpose. So if you are not having any book, consider buying Dr. R.L. Kotpal's book. But if you have studied any of these books, that is perfectly fine. You do not need to spend money on this book. Besides, not only money, you will be also spending time. But if you have studied Jordan and Verma or Dhami, and if you have already developed certain degree of comfort, why to break that comfortable equilibrium? Now I come to comparative anatomy of vertebrates. Here I will highly recommend a book by a foreign author, that is George C. Kent. This book is wonderfully illustrated. The account is very simple. The structure is very, very nice. It is easy to make notes from. But above all, the quality of this book's diagrams stands out. You can use directly the diagrams from this book for your examination. You will need to make notes. You will need to copy those diagrams. But here, most of the diagrams do not require any simplification. Thankfully, this book is now available in Indian market in an Indian reprint. That way, the book has become pretty affordable and you can consider buying this book. Do not fall in the trap of buying an Indian book for this area, because those books will not be scoring high in the matter of the quality of diagrams. Okay. Now, before we move to section B of our paper 1 of Zoology Optional, I would like to tell you that it would not be a good idea to buy all the books at the same time. It will cost you a lot of money all at one go. Also, it will appear a little daunting, more difficult than what it is. So, start with level 0 book. Just buy one book, level 0 book, do that book very well, then move to one book, invertebrate zoology. Finish invertebrate zoology, then move to the next book. Do not buy the entire set of books. It does not serve any purpose. Now, on that note, let's move further and come to section B, economic zoology. So, the recommended book is by Shukla and Upadhyay. The book is published by Rastogi Publications from Meerut. The book is very easily available. This book does not cover the entire prescribed syllabus of the UPSC, at least the edition that I have seen. If the publishers have updated anything, that is a very nice thing. But forensic biotechnology, medical biotechnology, these are the topics which were earlier not there when I last checked the edition of this book. So these are the topics. Thankfully for them, you have got very nice material on the internet. There are some very good authentic sites which will be giving you. For God's sake, do not rely on Wikipedia, and worst, do not rely on whatever AI outputs are going to give you. Go for a good academic website. Nature has got some very nice review articles. From there, you can get the entire status update on gene therapy, applications of biotechnology in the field of medicine, in the field of forensics. Go for such sources which are peer reviewed, which are authentic, from where you take information that will add a different dimension to your answer, and your answer will stand out. So no Wikipedia, and definitely no lazy work using AI generators. AI generators can be very good in giving you general output, but definitely not output required for the optional subject. So don't ruin your preparation by being lazy for those few topics. There is ample material available on the internet. Now for communicable diseases, again, this book does not do a great justice, but for that you can perhaps look into the Preventive and Social Medicine by Mr. Park, the Park's book on preventive and social medicine. So that is the gold standard on communicable diseases. The book is easily available across the libraries. Even if the book is for medical graduates, the writing style is so crisp that it will be a pleasure to read that book. So my suggestion will be that do communicable diseases from Park's book, Park's Preventive and Social Medicine. Now moving to Ecology and Environment by P.D. Sharma. This is my recommendation for ecology. Very nicely written book. It is periodically updated also, gives you a comprehensive coverage of most of the topics which are mentioned in your syllabus. Yes, there are a couple of topics which need to be updated, but anyway, you will be adding those updates by studying environmental ecology for the general studies. So you do not have to worry too much about the topics which are not so updated here because your general studies preparation will fill those gaps. I'm talking about topics like pollution, pollution control, climate change, ozone layer protection, then biological diversity, wildlife conservation in India. These are some of the topics which you will anyway be covering in significant detail for the general studies and use that information to fill the gaps which this book will create. But for all the traditional ecology topics, this book is an excellent resource. You can safely stick to that. So that's my recommendation for ecology and environment. Now moving to the next area, that is animal behavior. There are two books written by Indian authors which have been really popular. My recommendation is P.S. Verma, but if you have already studied Reena Mathur's book on ethology, you can very well stick to that. But if there is one book that you have to buy, and suppose that you have not studied ethology at all, then I would say go for P.S. Verma's book that nicely touches upon all the topics which are given in your syllabus. And this one book will serve almost 100% of the needs of ethology part. Now we are left with biostats and bioinstrumentation. For biostats, my recommendation will be the book by Dr. Veerbala Rastogi. She has written a number of very good books for Zoology Optional, but the biostats book is remarkable for its simplicity. There are other books which are much more rigorous, much better respected. For example, Mahajan's biostatistical methods. Most of the medical graduates study this book during their medicine course, but I would say that that will be too much. It will be like burdening yourself with the information, with the depth that you really do not require. So go for VBR book, Veerbala Rastogi book, that will serve all the purposes of biostats. And this book very nicely follows the syllabus of the graduation curriculum. At the same time, the syllabus given by the UPSC. So you would not find any difficulty in covering the entire syllabus. Finally, we come to the bioinstrumentation part. There are two ways to do bioinstrumentation. The first way to do bioinstrumentation is to go for authentic, nice, rigorous websites on the internet, but that will be a search that you will have to undertake topic by topic. There is no single site that does a good justice to each and every technique that is mentioned. But for all the topics other than microscopy, this is a book that is highly, highly recommended. This book is easily available across libraries, and to the best of my knowledge, this book is also available in its Indian reprint. So the book is called Principles and Techniques of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. So like I said, that apart from microscopy, there are a couple of microscopy topics like electron microscopy is there, phase contrast microscopy is there. So apart from the microscopy topics, every other topic is nicely covered in this book. And microscopy you can very well cover in the cell biology textbook that I'm going to recommend in a moment's time. So this book gives you very nice coverage, and it has long been regarded as the best book in this particular section. This book is written by Wilson and Walker, so you can go for this book very, very safely. That completes our recommendation for paper 1. Now let us move to paper 2. Now what are the areas that are there in paper 2? So paper 2 has got two sections, and taken the two sections together, there are 6 topics. But these 6 topics are slightly bigger topics. Like in paper 1, you had 8 areas, but out of 8, 2 areas were big, rest of the areas were moderately sized. Like invertebrate zoology and vertebrate zoology were big areas. Every other area was a moderately sized area. But in paper 2, there are six areas, but each area is slightly bigger than moderate, but not very large syllabus either. The largest syllabus is of invertebrate zoology. Now, when you talk about paper 2, so in section A, you have got cell biology, you have got genetics and evolutionary biology along with systematics. In section B, you have got biochemistry, physiology with a specific reference to human beings and developmental biology that we also like to call embryology. So, these are the six topics in paper 2. Here is my recommendation for not only cell biology, but cell biology, genetics and evolutionary biology. The book is written by Mr. P.S. Verma, Dr. P.S. Verma and Dr. V.K. Agarwal. Very nicely written book. If you are going for an Indian author's book, this is the one. But if you like and if you can handle an international author's book, Gerald Karp's book is going to be the gold standard for UPSC civil service cell biology requirement. So it is up to you. If you can handle Gerald Karp, cell and molecular biology, exceptional. But if you are looking for an easy to grasp, easy to make notes from kind of book, this is the book without any doubt. So the book is a combined book for cell biology, genetics, molecular biology, evolution and ecology. It has nice coverage of ecology, but still I would rank Dr. P.D. Sarma's book a notch higher than the ecology coverage of this book. Therefore, I have not recommended this book for ecology. But for the other areas, cell bio, genetics, small bio and evolutionary biology, this is my recommendation. You can safely rely on this. If you are comfortable handling international author's book, then Gerald Karp, Cell and Molecular Biology, go for the latest edition. That will be an outstanding book, amazing diagrams, amazing clarity of concept and cutting edge updates. Then genetics, like I said, that this is my recommendation for cell bio, genetics, small bio and evolutionary biology. So this is my recommendation. But again, if you can handle international authors books, like if you have studied geology in your graduation from one of the central universities, and if you have been exposed to international authors book, then the book that I will recommend for genetics is Klug and Cummings. So Klug and Cummings book on fundamentals of genetics is again an amazing book. You can rely on that. But if you have not been taught this book during your graduation, I would say don't think of doing that. It will take a lot of time and you can stick to this book. Okay. And then evolutionary biology, safely this book. When you are buying this book, so these are three very well done areas and you can easily rely. Now that completes section A of paper 2. Paper 2 section B starts with biochemistry and Dr. U. Satyanarayan's book on biochemistry is India's most popular biochemistry book as of now. You can safely depend on this book. Every single topic that is mentioned in your Zoology Optional Biochemistry syllabus is very nicely covered. Dr. Satyanarayan's book stands out for its clarity, its comprehensiveness, as well as it brings in the human physiological context wherever that is relevant. So it will add a lot of value to your biochemistry preparation. No other recommendation. I am not saying Harper's Biochemistry, that is a little overkill. I am not suggesting Leninger, that is more into general biochemistry and it is a very voluminous book. Stryer is a little difficult book to make sense of. Voet is even more difficult book to make sense of. So my suggestion is stick to Dr. Satyanarayan and you will not be disappointed. Now I am coming to physiology. Definitely physiology is a very vast area, but thankfully the UPSC syllabus is pretty well defined for physiology. As a matter of fact, the kind of questions that have been asked in the last 15 years, it does not require you to study physiology at the level at which the MBBS students study physiology. So MBBS students study physiology from the books like Guyton and Hall, or if they want a shorter version, they will go for Gannon. But they are too detailed, too technical, and they will prove to be a burden for you. My suggestion is go for Dr. A.K. Jain's single volume book on human physiology that is written for BDS students. Dr. A.K. Jain has also written a two-volume book on human physiology for MBBS students. Don't go for that. Similarly, Dr. C.C. Chatterjee's book also comes on human physiology in two volumes. Don't go for that. This is the book to go for. It will cover everything that you need for the civil service examination, everything very nicely. You can compare it against the last 15 years question on physiology, and every single question you will find nicely covered in this book. So save your time, save your energy and read this book. Guyton will be an unnecessary wastage of time. Same I can say about Ganong. If you are a medical graduate, if you have already studied Guyton, if you have already studied Ganong, then don't need to read this book. But if you are a general side graduate like zoology, botany, biochemistry, biotechnology, microbiology, any such area, go for this book. Okay. So I hope I have made my point clear. And the last area is embryology, that is developmental biology. I would suggest go for the book written by Dr. Birbala Rastogi. It covers almost 80% of the areas that is mentioned in your syllabus. The remaining areas you should ideally be covering from Scott Gilbert's developmental biology book. Again, it is one of the most popular, globally most popular books on embryology. So its availability in the college library and all will not be a difficulty at all. So go to your college library, or if you do not have access to a college library, find a friend who can get this book borrowed to you, and the remaining 20% topics you will need to prepare from Scott Gilbert. Rest all other topics are very satisfactorily done here. So that completes my recommendation. Do not buy all the books at once. Pick up one book, finish it, make your notes, and only when you have made your notes and given a quick reading to your notes, move to the next area. That is how you will keep the entire journey proceeding smoothly without feeling overburdened or burnt out at any point in time. Now, a few tactics to make the most out of these books. But before I go for anything, remember I am going to mention it again. Make notes. Without that, you are not preparing. You are merely reading the book. But if you want to prepare, then making notes is non-negotiable. Here are the tactics. To begin with, build the basics. If you are not a geology graduate, start from level 0 book. That will give you the platform upon which you can prepare the rest of the geology. Without that, you will always struggle in this subject. Second, cover paper 1 first, whether you have geology background or you do not have geology background, because paper 1, especially section A, that includes animal diversity, that is the biggest area. Once you have done it, you will feel a lot lighter after you have done that, because after that every other area is something which is easy to understand, more conceptual than factual, and the progress will be much swifter. So get this area out of your way as early as possible. And after that, move to paper 2, cell bio, genetics, biochemistry, evolutionary biology, physiology and developmental biology, and then come back to section B of paper 1, that is ecology, economic geology, ethology, biostats and bioinstrumentation. So that should be your whole journey looking like. So paper 1 section A, then entire paper 2, and then paper 1 section B. So that should be the sequence. Next, you should know what you are reading the book for. And for this, you need to have studied the PYQ very, very carefully of the last 15 years minimally. And do not restrict to only the topics which have been touched in the PYQ. You have to cover the entire syllabus, because every single question that will come in the examination will be broken into 2 to 4 parts. Now, basically 3 part, 4 part, and sometimes question number 1 and 5 are broken into even 5 parts. So in every question, the sub parts are from different areas of the syllabus. So you cannot really leave anything. But whenever you are picking up a topic, you should very clearly know that in this topic, these are the dimensions which are worth a question. Suppose you are doing cell membrane. So composition of the membrane is one dimension that you have to do. Different molecular models of the biological membrane that have been given. since earlier times of cell biology up until now, all of those things have to be compiled at one place. That is the second question, worthy dimension. Third is fluid mosaic model, the evidences in favor of the fluid mosaic model, the basic proposition of the fluid mosaic model, and what were the modifications in the fluid mosaic model that were suggested by Unwin and Henderson. All of these things together, they make one question worthy dimension again. And then fluidity of the membrane, regulation of the membrane fluidity is the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is the functions of the membrane. And then membrane transport is a separate topic. In membrane transport, a general account, one dimension. The passive transport, that is simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion, is another one. Active transport is another one. Then difference between pumps and transporters, that is another dimension. Difference between primary active and secondary active, that is another dimension. So whenever you are doing a topic, by some careful analysis of PYQ, and do not only look into the PYQ, what has been asked, also try to see if this has been asked, then this can also be asked. And that will give you a full understanding of the dimensions which are question worthy, and then prepare your own notes. In the reading one, underline the key concepts and facts. That will be very important. But in reading one, do not make notes. Otherwise, you will make very, very bulky notes, and it will serve no purpose of fast revision. Make notes in the reading 2 stage, and the notes have to include all the key concepts, all the key facts, but the notes have to give you at least 5 times more condensed version compared to the book. Minimum 5 times. It can be even 6, 7 times. So something that has been given in 7 pages, you should be including in 1 page of your notes. If you can do that, that is the real note. Okay. And after the second reading, that is when you have made the notes, you should not be requiring to read the book again. Now, after this point, all that you need to do is to read from your notes. So, revision should never be from the books, revision should always be from the notes. Note making is so important that even in our courses, like online courses, offline courses, we always tell the students that while you are studying in the class, online or offline class, do make notes. After the completion of the course, you should neither be needing the study material, nor should you be needing to go back to the video. In the class only, you have to complete the notes making exercise. So even if you are attending the classes, you will be encouraged to make notes, because that is the only way that will speed up your entire preparation. That is the difference between the people who score above 300 and between the people who work very hard but grossly underperform. Do not let this differentiator go away from your hand. So, well, that brings us to a completion of what we were hoping to discuss today, the reading list for Zoology Optional. I hope you have clearly understood all that I wanted to convey to you, and now you have a reading list and ball is in your court. What you are waiting for is start your preparation, make your notes, and do well in the examination. All the best, everyone. Goodbye and good luck to you.